The U.S. government continues to debate whether or not to arm the rebels in Syria, even as a new poll shows nearly 80% of Americans are saying don't do it. So why are 300 Marines now stationed along the Syrian border with Jordan? The first step in full disclosure is to inform. The U.S. has located 300 Marines in northern Jordan near the border with Syria, along with a Patriot anti-aircraft missile system. That report from the Times of London. The U.S. military says they're only there as part of a military training exercise. Other than that, we know very little about the role of those Marines, other than the fact that they will remain there for at least several months. So the big question, how long before the United States is involved in Syria? The answer, we already are. Last year, when I talked one-on-one with President Obama, he told me the United States is careful not to provide arms to these rebel groups. The president said that in response to a question I asked him about how the United States could support the Syrian rebels when so many of those so-called rebels aren't Syrian, and many are al-Qaeda fighters from Iraq. The reality here, the United States has already provided millions in financial help to the FSA, or the Free Syrian Army. We've also provided non-lethal assistance to the FSA, satellite radios, as well as body armor. But according to some, like Republican Senator John McCain, that's not enough. On Memorial Day, McCain made a secret trip to Syria to meet with the leader of the Supreme Military Council of the Free Syrian Army, General Salim Idris. Senator McCain was asked for the U.S. to take the lead in a, quote, more serious manner, end quote. More specifically, to provide heavy weapons directly to the FSA. He was asked for the U.S. to create a no-fly zone for Syrian warplanes and for the strategic bombings by the U.S. to take place on the Syrian government. So what's the problem here? Well, there is, in fact, an enormous problem. This is the part of the story that so much of the media is just not telling you. The war in Syria is not a true civil war. 2 years ago, President Bashar al-Assad was fairly unpopular with his people. And people who I have talked to living in Syria today tell me there was justified and growing anger against Assad. 2 years ago, when civil unrest started, it looked as if there would be a push for freedom. But in short time, the people fighting that war against the government became not Syrian citizens, but jihadists and al-Qaeda fighters. You see, there are multiple groups fighting to overthrow the Assad regime. The FSA, or the Free Syrian Army, well, they are the ones making the requests for help from the U.S. They're the second largest group. But the largest group, al-Nusra Front. Who's that? Al-Nusra Front is the Syrian wing of al-Qaeda in Iraq. In December of 2012, the United States officially designated al-Nusra Front as a terror organization. Then in April of this year, 2013, the head of al-Qaeda in Iraq released an audio recording announcing al-Nusra Front as its branch in Syria. Ohio Congressman Brad Winstrup tells me that much of what he knows about the situation in Syria is classified, but admits, quote, you really have to take a close look at who are your friends and what this will do to us in the long term. We have had some lessons learned on that in the past. So Congressman Winstrup can't get into too many details about what he knows, but there is a lot out there that is not classified about al-Nusra Front. About a month ago, the UK Guardian reported that the best financed, best equipped, and best motivated force taking on the Syrian government is not the FSA, but al-Nusra. What's more, the Free Syrian Army is losing thousands of fighters and capabilities to al-Nusra. So if these guys are so bad, why aren't we hearing more about it? Well, I can't tell you that, but what I can tell you is what is happening in Syria today should have the attention of every American, and evidence of it is not hard to find. All over YouTube are videos posted by members of the Free Syrian Army or al-Nusra Front demonstrating what they are doing now and what they will do in Syria once they have control. Beheadings of anyone seen as a traitor or siding with the government, and the slaughtering of many innocent people. And there is something else about the situation in Syria that American media is not telling you. Until this war started 2 years ago, Syria was one of the few places in the Middle East where Christians, Shiite Muslims, Sunni Muslims, Alawites, and Jews all lived in peace with each other. Al-Nusra is working to end that. I want you to watch for a minute here this YouTube video of members of al-Nusra after they've taken a Syrian town. The video here uploaded by Syrian Rebel Watch. There is translation of the words this child is singing at the bottom of the screen.
دمرنا أمريكا طيارة مدنية برج التجارة غدا قومة ترابية برج التجارة غدا قومة ترابية شرطة نصيرية صبرا يا علوية بزبح جيبكم بزبح جينكم دعوة إلهية.
And those kinds of videos are hidden in plain sight all over the internet. But the American people either don't know they're there or don't care. What you need to know is that what is happening in Syria is an enormous problem for the United States. Al-Assad may be a poor leader, but at least he allowed the people in Syria, regardless of their religious beliefs, to live at peace. Al-Qaeda in Iraq has publicly stated that their goal is to create an Al-Qaeda superstate comprised of Iraq and Syria. By funding these so-called rebels, the U.S. government is handing Al-Qaeda the keys to that superstate. By the United States supporting the overthrow of Assad, without question, we will hand Syria over to Al-Qaeda, make no mistake. And the slaughter of millions of Syrians, including Syrian Christians, Jews, Alawites, and Muslims, will be on our hands. And that is full disclosure. Well, now that you've been informed, head over to benswan.com. There we have resources for you about Al-Nusra Front and links to the full YouTube video that we showed you here, as well as others. It demonstrates exactly what's happening in Syria. Get engaged right now at benswan.com. Well, I hope you enjoyed that show and found it to be educational and informational, but most importantly, meaningful to the national conversation. That was just a limited preview of Ben Swan Full Disclosure. Through our Kickstarter project and fully funded episodes, we'll be able to do even more, including having interview guests and experts on various subjects in various fields. We want to elevate the national conversation. That's what the Truth in Media project on Kickstarter is really all about. It's about restoring journalism and the fourth estate in this country. For years, I've heard people say that journalism in this country is broken, that it needs to be restored and it needs to be fixed. I can't do that alone. I need your help to get it done. Go to Kickstarter.com, search for the Truth in Media project, or just click on the link at the end of this show. There you'll be able to contribute. Thousands of you already have, and I thank you for that. But we need thousands more. And I'm not talking about dollars here. I'm talking about thousands of people stepping up and doing more than just being hearers, being doers, changing the national conversation. The bottom line here, this project cannot and will not get done without your help.